things also.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm not sure if Richard is coming on board, but let's start anyway. Thank you everyone for making time in very short notice. Now, the reason why we're having this session today, as I have mentioned earlier to some of you who have just come, is that number one, we're moving to 1.2, right? MyDex 1.2. So we want to understand firstly what has happened, or rather, what can we do better given what we have done in 1.1, right? So that's the intention. So, like I said, we are wanting to move forward because obviously, if we have not learned and improvised on what we have made mistakes in 1.1, we will keep making the same mistake in 1.2. So that will be a problem for us because many things will not happen the way we planned for. So here the session is, I think for some of you who have not known me, so I'm a, Agile consultant. I do coaching. I've done training for a lot of people in the academy, and I also do it for corporates. And what I think I want to spend some time today is just running through with all of you. Like Ken, perhaps you may or may not be aware of these challenges because you may not have had that experience with us earlier on. So let me refresh you with what are the things that we faced and the challenges we hope to overcome. And for the rest of you, I will also ask you, like, for example, Hakshi as well. And of course, to understand also what are the issues later on. So let me just run through with the main issues first, right? So, all right. So first thing first, I think one of the challenges we face is on the fact that our teams are very distributed. When I say distributed, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Distributed teams means what? They are not in the same place, right? So one person is here, one person may be in Sarawak, one person may be in or we've had people in India in the past. So the distribution itself is not a problem, but with distribution comes other challenges, right? As you can gather, because we are not able to confirm, understand the issues from the perspective of visual expression. Those issues are there, right? Whether we like it or not, it's there. So one of the things that we always see in distributed team is that we cannot see what's really happening, right? And this is causing a problem to us because if I don't know what's happening, then Vinicius probably from here will be thinking about, well, is this done or not done? Or is it started or not started? What stage are we right now, right? So we do not know what is the status of progression. We do not know. And with progression, we are not able to report progress also, right? We are not able to qualify what has been done and what's the percentage of done. And Mr. Vinicius, for example, has to report to, say, the stakeholders like Mr. David, Captain Sudhir, Kevin, for that matter, also will not be able to do his updates. So this is becoming a problem, a real problem, really. And also there were lots of communication issues because of perhaps the tool we use that is not so optimized with regards to how we, engage with ourselves and so on. Of course, we have improved. I'm not saying we have not improved. We've improved. We have seen better success rates, but surely there are much more that we can do to improve further, right? Now, number two, I think the main thrust is the issue with requirements, right? Sometimes, the way requirements are written in the Excel spreadsheet, it could be better, or even if it's written there nicely, people are wondering what exactly needs to be done. It's not very clear. Is there another document that we can cross-refer? Is there any mock-ups that we can refer? For example, if Ken needs to come up with a UI, he needs to exactly know what sort of preferences, layout, standardization, look and feel that the company would want. Because he can just go on and create anything he likes, but that may not be what the organization wants, right? So that sort of thing, right? You understand what I mean, right? Clarity of requirements. is something that we need to look into better coming forward in 1.2. And I'll talk to you about what we plan to do after this. Disconnect. Now, I think this is also something that Richard has mentioned in the past also. The issue that what we're doing now against the larger picture, the larger scheme of things, we are not able to connect, and we are not able to see how what we do now translates to the larger core AI, for example, the larger picture of getting the MyDex platform operational, for example. So there's a lot of disconnect. So we are trying to connect what we do and how our work impacts the MyDex platform, impacts the propulsion, impacts GCC, impacts bunch count, impacts weeding. So we must be able to connect that. Okay, so that's lacking at the moment. And we also see there's a gap, right? So a lot of people have said they have finished what they finished, but when we have that demonstration to the stakeholders, they have disagreed somehow. They said, no, it's not done. So there is some sort of gap, right? Because what I think is completed is somewhat so-called not completed when someone else looks at it. So something is not right, right? So this is something that we need to address also. Of course, there are much more, so which is why I would like to hear from, maybe Kevin is in the call, right, Kevin? So Kevin, you always report very frequently to stakeholders, and you must have encountered more than these issues that we see here. You have any thoughts on this? Okay, in the absence of Kevin, Vinicius, if you could just share your views on that.
Yeah, actually, we have a lot of, that's the thing, you see, because we have to report like daily to our stakeholders on the progress, because our cycles are very short, within 3 months or 1 month. So that is one of the things that we have. But on the other hand, we also understand that our teams, our distributed teams, right, they work at a different pace and different timing, okay, according to their own thing. But again, for us to explain to the stakeholder is a bit difficult, and often find it challenging to having to explain, the work being done and all.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you echoed that statement with regards to reporting progress. I also like to ask our interns, our apprentices who are here to also share, what you think. Because you see, the idea of the session today is that in order for you to do what you need to do better, we need to support you, right, in any way we can, so that you can do your work better. Okay. Of course, there's only so much we can do, right? For example, it'd be nice if I treat everybody lunch every day so you can do better, right? So that's a different discussion. But of course, apologies for those who are fasting. I'll just give an example there. But what I'm saying is, what can we do with regards to, or what you think can be done better over and above what we've discussed, right? So maybe Tanusha, you have been involved in 1.1 already. So you must have seen something that you feel, but you know what, if we did this better, we can do better for 1.2. So what would that be, Tanusha?
Hi, Doctor. The issues I faced was understanding it better, because the projects and everything is, excuse me.
Sure, I get where you're coming from. Can I say that it's something to do with understanding requirements or clarity of requirements?
I will say both.
Okay.
Because
All right.
we haven't got the full picture of it yet, and when we are required to do something,
Okay.
the view that I am looking at is different from how the stakeholders look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a mismatch. So I'm glad you said that, because clarity of requirement is one thing. Maybe the requirement itself is written not so clear. But even if it's clear, your understanding may be different from somebody else's understanding when he or she wrote that, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so that's good. I have a plan for that, really. What about the rest? Perry, you've been the longest among the interns. In fact, you've almost finished the apprentice stage, right? So
Sorry,
what?
Dr. Perry just went to the washroom.
No worries. No problem. Perry just stepped out, right? Okay, fine. So is Kevin in? If you want to share your
Kevin,
challenges.
hello, Kevin. Are you there?
All right. So while Kevin is coming up, we can ask Shahir. Shahir, so you've taken the lead of a few things, Shahir.
Yes,
So what's your
definitely.
view?
So from my point of view, I see that there are a lot of things that we supposedly we don't know anything about it. So it takes time for us to learn, but then there are due dates that we need to fulfill by the end of the day. So it's quite challenging, yeah, because something
Mm,
that is new for us, very new, and have zero knowledge on it. So we need takes our guidance from the expert, or need
yeah,
takes time for to learn anything about it. So it's quite
definitely.
challenging.
Yes.
Mhm.
So projects like this, especially R&D projects, is definitely challenging because none of these have ever been done before, right? So you do not have any reference anywhere. You can Google the internet or wherever you go. There's no such solutions anywhere. So definitely it is challenging, no doubt. We will have to accept that as a fact. But what we can do is to introduce risk elements into the work items. So I'll talk about that, what we can do to introduce risk items to mitigate the risk, right? Because if I know I lack knowledge, if I know I lack competency, that means that is a risk. How do I address this? So we will talk about that. Okay, good. Maybe we can now go to Koshi, Kosigan. Okay, while Kosigan is getting ready, we can ask Tanesh. Tanesh, you've also been very long with us. Either one of you can share.
Can I ask something? Ask something?
Sure.
Okay. I share really is not. Of course, I'm not sure not this project but just the other projects I see is like this. My problem is a lack of visibility of works, and then it's a disconnect between what is to be done against the goals. Second, and then is a and then the second gap between the what was completed against what was expected. Okay. First thing is I have one project. It's like the boss and the project manager and me. Of course, I work with the project manager and then work with the boss. The boss have a big picture, have a final goal in the end day, and all the knowledge the boss will present to the customer lah. So the problem project manager is lacking of knowledge, right? So the problem is like first thing is the project manager lack of visibility of works is like maybe the boss didn't pass on the knowledge or big picture to him. He lack of experience. So that's why every time he explained the requirement to me, I follow what I have done. The project manager also say it's like, oh, it's finished already, it's done. But in the end, the boss test, he said, no, it's not like this. It's not what I want. So in this case, the boss called me directly. Then he explained the problem is because of trust. Because this project manager is a new, he don't trust it, and then he don't share a lot of business knowledge to this project manager. He share to me because we worked with him a few times already. He shared with me. So in the end, it's like, I understand what the boss want, but it took almost at the date near the deadline already. The boss cannot wait. Then he asked me directly. So in this case, it's like, because of, I understand this is a personal, it's a trust issue. If the boss don't share the project manager don't know if the requirements correct or not. In the end, we'll generate the gap between what was complete against what was expected. In this case, it's like really difficult to, I don't know how to handle it. And I have to talk to the boss, then the boss always call me, then it's like not, it's the project manager also it's not happy with me because it called me why you call it's like bypass him.
Yeah, so that's a good point you said, Ken, because trust is always connected with the level of engagement, right? And the openness of communication. So we need to establish that in our project, definitely. And I think we have that. I have sat in for Mr. Vinicius' daily stand-up. I think there's a lot of openness of communication within the team. So I'm very happy to acknowledge that. And people are open about what they have done, what they cannot do. And I think there's no issue of sort of sharing knowledge. It's just that how much we can share depends on how much time we have, right? Because if we're going to do what other people needs to do, what happens to our work? That also gets compromised.
Another one is also happen same thing. It's like another company one, it keep difficult to hiring something. People come in and out. I think so because of the knowledge sharing it's like
So that is something.
It's something like what I can see. It's like something like the new people come in, they don't have the also it's a trust to the senior. Let's say I'm the quite senior pioneer there. I say I'm friendly. If you have any issue, just call me. Then I explain to you. But in the end, it's like nobody going to call me. And then like they explain not like this, it's like they don't see the big picture.
Yeah.
Because what they're feeling is, because for the intern and the junior, they will feel like if let's say if I say I don't understand this word, it's a bad for their KPI.
Yeah.
Because to me, I'm freelance. You just find me to get in a project. To me, I say I talk to a lot of customers. I say I don't understand what you're trying to say. Can you explain more? And then to me it's because it's like people may be frustrated to explain why I explain to you you still don't understand it. I explained a few times already, but to me I understand is if let's say you just spend more few hours to explain to me what I don't understand, I understand already, then it's better to be in the end I delete the wrong stuff, then it's waste more time.
Okay, good. Thanks, Ken. So I see where you're coming from, and definitely these are, even though we may or not face this now, I'm sure this would be something that we need to be thinking of in the future. Let me look at those who have not spoken. Kevin, I'm still waiting for Kevin. If he's connected here, you can share your views. Kevin frequently talks to our stakeholders, so he has a lot of experience in this. Apart from that, waiting for Kevin, we have Hapshi. Yes, Hapshi, can we hear from you now? Okay, not sure whether Hapshi just stepped out. Anyone else who has not answered?
Hey, did I step out or not?
Yes, Hapshi, go for it. Now over to you.
Sorry, I don't know why the speaker maybe, so okay. As I mentioned earlier with you before the other members come to this meeting, the coordination is the visibility, one thing, understanding the technical aspects. There is some kind of difficulties usually because the directors and the investors, they want something, but we look at also how we can apply it from this kind of perspective. At the same time, how to have like insight, as Ken mentioned over here, the insight for long term, what are the problems we're facing, especially we know what is the trend and what are the upcoming technology and what are we can deliver at short time. So this is the thing. Clarity of requirement. One clarity between this is the requirement between understanding the requirement needed by the directors and the requirement. I would say it's not only the requirement, the how we can achieve the what call it deliver this the requirement. Are there some obstacles or not obstacles? It is lack of engagements, maybe. Well, the trust, there is a trust, but it's about follow up. It's nothing. Everything will be perfect at the moment. At that time, and you can see my experience. I mean, in Venus for the last 2 weeks. So this is the
Okay.
expect. Yeah, expectation. This is we have the for us maybe as developers
Yeah.
and we try to give something
Yeah.
near to the expectation. We have
Yeah.
to grasp the expectation of the investors and the clients and the directors. And here
Sure.
we have I attended the meeting with the Venus for this member that with the other member teams to understand okay what is the expectation. But maybe the issue about the pressure they get from the client and then they try to reflect it. This is the steps of our current progress of the project, how we should go with it, and lead us to focus on other aspects. This is my own kind of complaint at the moment.
All right. Thank you so much, Shapshi, because those are very, very important aspects that you have shared. So what I'm doing is I have sort of put them up in the list itself so that, we capture all the things that all of you have said. Technical knowledge, definitely, that is something that it's very, very crucial. Sometimes we lack that knowledge because we may not have exposed that in our previous study, right? And we are doing something very different. I think none of us here in this call can say that we have done something like this before, right? So this is definitely a different context, even though we have done something similar, but the context may be different. So it's of course going to be challenging, right? So that's a fact that we need to embrace. So whatever said and done, these combination of issues and challenges are definitely slowing progress, and we have seen that happening in 1.1. So I'm not saying there's a magic formula that all of this will disappear in 1.2, but we are trying to take baby steps. When I say baby steps, we are trying to address this. How do we try to address this? And by taking baby steps and taking one at a time. So in 1.2, we are trying to do a few things differently. And today's session we have had to you with today, this session is also what we're doing different, right? To understand your pain points. We're also going to do a few things to look at how the requirements are written, and that will hopefully address clarity and understanding. We are trying to look at how do we estimate effort better. And we also can start looking at to-do lists, right? Within each user stories, each requirements, we can insert to-do lists, and I'll give you a glimpse of that later in Jira. How do we insert acceptance criteria? Now, this is a very important point because if customer is expecting A and I'm doing B, of course there's going to be a problem, right? Because customer wants A, I'm doing B. So there's a gap. Remember the gap between what was completed and what was expected, the gap. So if I know clearly customer wants A, then I do as much as I can to achieve A, or at least A plus or A minus, but I'm still A, right? Not too far away. So that is why we need to slowly and surely get acceptance criteria included in our user stories. And I'll show you some examples on how we plan to do that later. And hopefully that will address this gap, okay, to some extent. And I know a couple of organizations like even Petronas, they have implemented acceptance criteria very well in their projects. So when they get contractors, then their vendors to do work for them, what they do very well, Petronas, is to write this acceptance criteria really, really well. So that helps the vendors to align, to ensure what they develop close or exact with the acceptance criteria. So we need to also start doing that in our requirements, our user stories. And the next one, how do we insert risk, right? Like what some of you said, Shahi said, the risk elements inside. We need to see how we can address risk, because risk, if we do not address it early, it becomes a problem. Like, for example, not finishing time, stakeholders not happy. So these are examples where the risks were not mitigated well. Okay? Some items have high risk, some items have low risk. So the ones with a high risk, we need to do something about it, right? And of course, yes, I think Ken spoke about knowledge sharing. Yes, that's definitely one area that we want to talk about. So we are going to integrate Jira with Confluence. Now, by the way, for those of you who do not know, Confluence is another tool. Jira is another tool. So both belongs to the same company, by the way. They are called Atlassian. So over time, we are going to connect our experience and our knowledge inside Confluence, and that's integrated into Jira and what we are doing. So after the project is over, we have a compilation of best practices already. Okay, so that is the intention. So what we plan to do is to move to Jira, as I mentioned to you, but we realized that this exercise of moving from what you're doing currently in the spreadsheet, which is great, which is done, we have been able to track work very well. There's nothing really wrong with what you're doing. But as you have noticed, the issues that I've shared, right? The visibility, not able to report progress, not able to update timeliness. There may be some, technical issues with the spreadsheet. You may have other challenges like, things that you do not expect to see, you see it there. So we want to use a better tool. Now, Jira, for those of you who do not know this, Jira is a world-class tool used by many, many top organizations. And Jira is purpose-built for Agile. And Jira is used to track progress, to show completion, to report updates, to manage a sprint, to come up with all your reports subsequently. And the same Jira can be also configured differently for different people, right? You can have your stakeholders from Kuala Hidung. He might want to have something different to see, a dashboard. He doesn't have to see the detailed stuff. So we can do all these things nicely in Jira. So that's what we're doing. Now we realize that it's not so simple because people are already very familiar with Excel, and we do not want to upset things for you. And we want to move this gradually, right? Gradually. So in this first sprint, it will be parallel. That means we're going to have Jira alongside with spreadsheet. So to allow everybody the time to get familiarized, to get used to it. And we hope to move to full-fledged migration in sprint 2. That means after the 14th of this month. So by which time you would have had at least some exposure. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work with different groups of people to help you with what I just listed here on the right side of the slide. I'm going to work with different people. So this is like Agile coaching, if you like. I'm going to probably talk to Kevin and talk to Ken, be anxious to do something there, and meet Tanusha, Shahir, and Tanesh, Perry, and all the rest of them, how to do all these things, how to come up with acceptance criteria. So we will have different sessions. So you will be more and more familiar with all of these things. Okay, today you might be a bit lost. Don't worry about that too much. All my intention here today is tell you that we are going to address your pain points. We hear you out. We know where you're coming from. I'm not saying we can address all, but we will address as much as we can to ease your challenges and to meet the objective of MIDEX 1.2. So that is the purpose of this short session today, to tell you what our plans are coming up in the coming days and what will happen in the next sprint. So I will be very much involved with small groups. Today is a session for the bigger group, but I will have smaller sessions with small groups to get you to walk through with all these things in detail, right? So don't worry about it. Don't be too alarmed. So this is meant to assist you, right, to do your work better and to ease that issues we're talking about so that we can all achieve our aim of 1.2 release. So I would like on this juncture to invite Mr. Vinicius to share your thoughts on how we are going and what we need to do, or any other views.
Mr. Vinicius?
Yeah, sorry. I was just distracted, slightly distracted.
So yeah, I think the point is that we have presented Vinicius the plan. Like I said, these little things that we propose here will be done with smaller groups, right? So that everybody is clear how to do what to do. So this is just a session to improve a few steps from what we have done earlier on in 1.1, right? So any thoughts on this, Vinicius?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think if you have addressed most of our pain points here.
Okay, that's
now
good.
the only thing left is for the rest of the team to adopt and use it.
Yeah. So that's what. So we are very committed to see where we can improve, and of course, the technical part is left to you because you are doing that. You are the subject matter expert. So that part of it we can't really assist you because we would rely on you to do those things. But whatever we can help you when it comes to the clarity and so on, please let us know from time to time. So this session is not going to be one-off. You need to tell us, what we can do to do better, right? Especially Ken, you have had many other projects with other clients, so you bring also some best practices, right? From different client, different projects. Maybe you see something that's working somewhere that we can improve on. Please do let us know. We are always open to continuous improvement. That's the Agile philosophy that we adopt.
Yes, because this is a trust. Like you say, I always like you say, we are helping, we are here to helping, but sometimes people is like trust is like, don't they about talk. The problem is maybe it's a talk that thing about my boss. He always like this. This is a problem here. Maybe it's like I say, the smaller group private section is a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. We will be having smaller sessions with many smaller groups. I'll be meeting Terry, Shai, Tanusha, Tanis all separately. Hapshi will have another session with you. Koshli also, together with the team. Kemi, Vinicius, I will have separately, and also the EB Tech team. We will also be having a separate session with them. They are not here, unfortunately, but I will have another session with them because it's never easy to coordinate one time, right? Because they are in Kuching, and we have different groups, different places. So Ken, also with you, I will have a separate session as well. On that note, I've come to the end of my session. This is just to inform you, but just to share with you, maybe I can share my screen so that you see what was happening. Yeah, so you see, like for example, you have the Jira structure, right? And then can you see that you have your acceptance criteria on my screen? You've got criteria 1, criteria 2. So if you know the customer wants criteria 1, criteria 2, right? So at the end of the completion of this particular user story, for example, this is a user story, right? At the end of this completion, if you know what are the acceptance criteria, and now, of course, you'll ask me, how do I know? So this is where you need to be in touch with the product, the client. I mean, in this case, our client is internal, so you're lucky because you have a frequent engagement with David, occasionally with Captain Sudhir, and so on. So they will sort of give you an idea of what they expect. And then you need to do what you need to do to achieve the acceptance criteria. So can you see that the moment I check one, right? You see, there's a progress rate showing 1 or 4 because you achieve one criteria. and you did one task to achieve that. You finish second criteria and you finish the task 2 to achieve that. So which means now 4 out of 4, this user story is complete. So at least now you know that, okay, if I've completed this, I need to do these things, I need to achieve this criteria, and I need to do something, right? So this is the kind of thing we are going to introduce to all of you, right? So we have not populated the backlog in full yet because I'm still getting all the templates up and ready. And of course, what we also want to do, if you notice, right? If you notice, under the fields, right? We've got a lot of fields here. You've got epic links. Can you see a component? Right, so interesting. Can you see my screen now? You can now select which component your work belongs to. This is where I said earlier, right? You're not able to connect what you're doing with the larger scheme of things. So you must always see the big picture as well as know what you're doing and how what you're doing contributes to the big picture. So the big picture is, of course, your epic. For example, this one, right? It's of course connected to the epic link of bunch count, right? So it's, yeah, so we know what we're doing here is connected to the bunch count, but in what larger structure it connects to? Is it connecting to the propulsion? Is it connected to the vision and sensing? Is it GIS or SLAM? So we need to know. So we click and select the appropriate high level structure component. And we also know the immediate goal, how it contributes to. So this connection is what we also want to establish here. All right, so that is my intention in doing this. So we will be introducing you all of this, and all of you will, sorry, not all of you, most of you will have access to this platform. So we have certain licenses that we allocated to different groups. So the groups we have here, Ken, you'll be having one license, Mr. Richard, myself and a few others who have one license. And we have the other group, Vinensius will have one license, Hapshi will have one license yourself. The rest of you, Perry, Shahid, Tanis, Tanusha will have one license. When I say one license, one access. Okay, so because we work as a team, right? All right, any other questions? We have Mr. Richard on this call, right? So yes, Richard, any thoughts? I will update you what we just shared earlier, but any thoughts from your end?
Sorry,
Sorry,
sir.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to ask one thing. Just now, this one is just now you introduced some tools, right? What I can see, you just key in some requirements inside here. Then how about the? Okay, also facing some tester is not tester, then don't have a big picture one. So they have some test case here. Then in this case, do we attach any test case here? Because it's really important here. The test case, right, is like keep growing one, and then we are good this requirement. What is a test case here? We like last time, a few projects don't have a test case. It's always like we fix something, then after that the previous bugs come back. So the old bugs come back. So we don't record them now. But when we do, then in this project, we need to upload the test case, right? Do we have any test case for upload inside here?
Definitely. So test cases are very important. For those of you who are not familiar with this word test case, what it means is before commencing development work, it is the best practice to have test cases formulated first. Because otherwise, when you finish your development and then you create your test case, that is biased. But if you create your test case, aligning your test case with the requirements, and then upon completing your the function or that particular feature, then you can run the test case to make sure that your test cases pass. That is what we are hoping for. So that definitely, that is something that we would be expecting also from the respective teams, especially the development teams, to incorporate into the backlog. So you will have access to that actually, Ken, if that's a question that you are thinking of, to incorporate that, because we are not able to visualize what exactly would be your test cases, right? So in some cases we can, some cases we cannot. So we will be working with you, with Vinicius, Mr. Kevin also, to come up with those test cases earlier on. And the test cases also, by the way, is aligned to the acceptance criteria. So that's connected there, right? And also with the requirements document, which will also be in Confluence. All right, so we are almost at 12. I wanted to end the session in 1 hour. Richard, do you have anything to add or say?
No,
I think
I'm okay,
Richard
Dr. Sana. Sorry, I joined a bit late, so maybe
No
you
worries.
can carry on first. Thanks.
Sure, no worries. Okay, so yes, on that note, Vinicius, we will, anything else you want to say before we end the session, or anyone else want to say anything?
I'm okay. Thanks, Sanat.
Okay, anyone else? Perry, Richard, Shahid, Tanis, Tanusha, Husigan. All good? Hapsi, any last words from your end? Okay, I trust everybody is good. So you'll be hearing more from me. This is just a session for us to, kickstart something new moving forward. So I will be coming and reaching out to you from time to time to detail out the requirements the way we have explained earlier, the way I've showed you earlier on Jira.
So, Dr. Sanath, if I just may add, when do you think we all will be ready to migrate fully into Jira?
Okay, I have shown the roadmap earlier, Richard. So what I presented earlier was in the slides. I've said that for the first sprint, we will do parallel.
Okay.
We will do parallel because, we are still in the transitionary phase until such time where everybody is familiar with the tool and, they are clear with the UI, because, the learning curve can also be steep for some. I know, Ken, you're very familiar with Jira because you've used that in your previous project. You told me that earlier. Maybe our EB Tech team also have exposure. They are using Trello, but it's not too far off. The rest of us here may or may not have that sort of, prior knowledge. So I just want to give everybody time to familiarize. So the first sprint up until 14 April, we will do parallel. Thereafter, we will go into full-fledged Jira usage.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Dr. Sana. Sorry, I joined late, so I didn't see.
No worries. I will share the deck also so that it's clear to everyone.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Sana.
You're welcome. So on that note, yes, it's 12 noon on my clock. So thank you for coming on board. Thank you for your involvement. Thank you for the next phase of 1.2. We are looking in excitement on how we can improve and do better. Till then, we'll speak to you soon, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank you.
weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.